This is the biggest day of the offseason for any Habs prospect, as not only does Ivan Demidov, captaining his under-23 team, go up against his own KHL team SKA and pull off a Kucherov goal, he also scored the shootout winner to beat his own KHL team in the preseason. And due to this performance and some other performances we've seen, head coach Roman Rottenberg has officially said that Demidov will start the year in the KHL, not the VHL, not the MHL. We are pumped about this. We'll get into that, plus some more highlights of that game. We also got to talk about the Athletic and their recent top pipeline rankings for the whole NHL, and a lot of Habs fans are a little bit upset and confused with their ranking on this list. So stick around for all of that. Some great stuff coming up on this episode of Habs Digest, and I'm going to start with the Athletic stuff. So, look, this isn't as good as I thought. This is, I really thought the Habs would be higher. I'll get into that in a second. If you want to watch the Demidov stuff, feel free to skip ahead. There will be a timestamp. There's lots of stuff there, but this is really interesting too. So Corey Pronman, if you weren't aware, I mean, you should be aware of his name. We've talked about him a lot. He does some amazing work over at The Athletic, and I'll link down below Montreal's article, but he's done this for every single team in the NHL. He was ranking the top pipelines in the NHL, going day by day, 8 teams over the course of the last 4 days. And we thought, Daily Faceoff just yesterday had Montreal at number 2 on their entire list of top prospect pools in the NHL. I thought, well, if you include players in the NHL that are still young, like this Athletic list will do, maybe Montreal will shoot up that list, maybe to number 1. Was I getting optimistic? Well, it turns out I certainly was, because they ranked number 6. And it's lower than I ever expected. Now, look, you got San Jose up there, and like Connor Bedard. There's a lot of teams ahead of Montreal. I'm not going to get into every team that's ahead of Montreal. What I'm going to focus on is specifically on what he had to say about Montreal, because I just want to focus on a couple guys that a lot of people were a bit confused about. So, this is not bad, objectively. To be number 6 in the entire NHL in terms of pipeline rankings is a really good thing for Montreal, but there's a couple guys that he has a little lower than we'd like. Now, he goes through every player and he kind of gives his projection for their skills, and, there's certain things here like Slaf's skating being NHL average, whatever, but he's only NHL average or above NHL average. This goes above NHL average, high-end, elite. So there's a couple tiers above this for Slav. I would have some of these maybe higher and have his compete at least one higher. I'd have his shot even a bit higher. But one thing you'll notice is he really values size in this. And if you're really skilled, but you're not that big and you're not that fast, he doesn't rank you very high. And that is evidence. I actually don't have the picture of this, but he had Joshua Waugh as I think the Habs' 14th best player in the pipeline, below lots of guys that Habs fans would have above him. And he basically just said, yeah, he put Waugh in that tier of like, will probably get NHL minutes. Like, kind of that tier that you put players that you're not convinced are going to have long-term NHL careers. So a lot of people were focused on Waugh, but me, I'm looking at this, and let me just say, look, he has Slav in the NHL All-Star tier. He also has Demidov in the NHL All-Star tier, and he does have Demidov as elite puck skills, but it's like, there's a couple things here, like below NHL average skating. I know Demidov, now we're going to get into some of that skating later, I know it is what it is. He mentions how Demidov does have phenomenal edge work, of course, but he said he kind of relies on it a lot, and he's a bit clunky when he's like going in straight lines and stuff. It's like, okay, but I don't think below NHL average is what I would give Demidov skating at all. I would say at least NHL average, but again, he covers more than I do, than a lot of us do, so, I mean, I can't really complain. He does have above NHL average hockey sense, even though that's kind of one of those things that scouts often really praise Demidov for. I would have had that at high end. Again, he's being conservative. You can't have everyone at high end, and every team is going to pump up their own prospects. So just looking at Slav and Demidov, I was like, really? Like, you can't rate him a little bit higher on that? But then you keep going down the list, and then you see Lane Hutson. His tier is middle of the lineup player. Okay, fair enough. But NHL average puck skills, like, look, there's certain things like skating above NHL average. That's great. I mean, he's great on his feet, but one of Hudson, at least in my opinion, one of his biggest strengths is his puck skills. I would have him at least above NHL average based on what I've seen in college and in the NHL. And I know it's hard to project, but it's kind of what you have to do. Look, high-end hockey sense, shot above NHL average, but he has Hudson, below Reinbacher, of course, below Slav, below Demidov. It's like, okay, fair enough. He just doesn't like the small guys like Hudson. But again, maybe it's just me being like too optimistic with Habs prospects. I need to hear your guys' opinion. Not just on the ones I've shown you. I want to also mention, by the way, just before I end this segment, I don't have a picture of this, but it just popped into my mind. He had Owen Beck as a high-end NHL shot, which is like, okay, normally I would love that. Normally I would absolutely love that. He had him at high-end compete, high-end NHL shot. But then you look, and you got Slav at above NHL average, Demidov above NHL average, Hudson above NHL average. You mean to tell me that he ranks Owen Beck's shot as better than those three? I know he's got like a decently hard shot. He played pretty well in the end of the season there, but really, like, there's just some inconsistencies throughout this list, I think, of certain players that are in higher tiers than other players that, even though you know that other player has a better attribute there. Anyway, look, I started to go nuts trying to read some of this list. It's not bad at all, and I really like Corey Pronman's work. I think it was a lot of work put into this. You can't be right on everyone, and I really suggest you go click the link down below to go check it out. But yeah, some weird stuff there, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on it. But you know what? We're just going to get into the fun stuff. We're going to get into Ivan Demidov. Let's get out of the negativity, out of the weird stuff. We got to jump right into this. And this is just absolutely massive. Before I jump into the highlights, guys, I just got to show you the big thing. This is the big thing we've all been waiting for. Breaking news from Hockey News Hub. By the way, if you've been following Hockey News Hub on Twitter, like I'm sure a lot of you have been, they're fully moving over to Patreon for all their KHL coverage. So I'm thinking that I'm probably going to end up giving them a bit on Patreon and supporting their amazing hard work. They've been doing it for free for so many years, and I want to keep up on Demidov. So if you do too, maybe go check them out, give it a look. Who knows? I'm not affiliated with them at all. I just really like the work they do. Anyway, SKA head coach Roman Rottenberg says Ivan Demidov will play for SKA the first game of their regular season versus Metallurg on September 5th. In what capacity was not specified, but it sounds like Demidov has made the main team. And look, I think we all expected this. I think we all expected Demidov to get there, though there was a bit of skepticism before we saw him actually play in this preseason. But with him captaining that under-23 team at the age of 18 years old and going up against legit KHL teams, and no joke, I mean, you guys have been watching this channel every single game. Demidov was a highlight machine, dominating full-strength KHL players. I believe Kuznetsov, for example, was playing for SKA today. Like, there was full lineups. Radulov was playing in this tournament. There's a lot of really good players, and Demidov was just making them all look like fools. But one thing that you guys are going to want to watch is these highlights. Let's just get into the highlights. So here we go. I mean, this first play was absolutely phenomenal. Now, look, some people are saying that he didn't intentionally lose the puck. I don't know. Track his eyes. I think a lot of us here are going to say that this was intentional. Watch what he does here. On this next replay, he just lets it go, and he just watches, right? He doesn't even panic. There's no panic. Sometimes if you lose the puck, you might try and poke it past. I think this is intentional. I mean, I could be wrong, but still. But then he goes on, and he makes this insane stretch pass, and there's a lot of highlights that I didn't even include here. But to cap it all off, the shootout winner. That final goal, just an absolute snipe with a ridiculously quick release over the shoulder. There's no time to react. Like, again, every single game we watch, this guy is doing something that, like, I haven't seen a Habs prospect do. We saw Lane Hudson dominate the NCAA in a way that we were like, oh my gosh, like, I haven't seen a Habs prospect do this. And then Demidov is coming in the KHL, where he's facing a lot of ex-NHLers. He's facing some of the best talent in the world. Again, I know KHL isn't what it used to be, blah, 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 but it's not like it's a weak league. It's still a league with men. It's a league with NHLers. It's still very respectable. And he pulls off a Kucherov. I'm going to play that again because I think you guys are going to want to watch this again. He pulls off this Kucherov move. Whether it's intentional or not, it doesn't matter. He still scored. He scored in regulation. He made some sick passes, and he scored in the shootout. And all that, yeah, he's going to make the main team. And as Roman Rottenberg said just recently, like, the plan is for Demidov to play a very similar role with SKA once he gets there. That's what he said. He's like, Demidov's going to have that kind of role that he had with this under-23 team. Now, I don't know if that just means in terms of play style, like, you're going to kind of let him be himself, create these chances, let him stick handle, like, I don't know, you're going to not limit him. I don't really know why you would limit him anyway. Or does it mean that he's going to get that kind of top-line role? Rottenberg did also say, he was quoted as saying, Demidov can fight to be on any line on SKA. And don't forget, Michkov didn't quite make the team last year. I know we keep going back to this comparison. It is what it is. He got loaned out to Sochi, whatever. But I think, like, this is Demidov's shot. I'm hoping he doesn't just get, like, those couple minutes for SKA. Like, again, this is a really good team. Like, they have a lot of very, very good talent. And Demidov is going to need to prove himself worthy to stay there long term. He's going to need to play consistently every single night. You can't be having crazy defensive lapses, which I don't think he's going to do because he's actually quite a solid defender as well. But I'm just excited. I'm excited to see this talent in the KHL in the regular season because we're going to get such a great projection of what he's going to end up being. And don't forget, guys, like other guys, the guys we bring up all the time, whether it's Kaprizov, whether it's Panarin, whether it's Kucherov, right? These guys all spent time in their draft plus one. All of them, I think, except maybe Kaprizov, but I think all of them spent time in the MHL and the VHL as well as the KHL. The KHL was not their primary league. So another thing, even if he does get sent down, don't let that worry you. The thing is, like, if he can stay consistently, even just on the roster, even if he's not playing much, don't know if that's going to be best for his development. I think they're just going to want to get him to play a lot of time. But still, like, no matter what happens, they're going to do what's best for him. And even if he does go down, it's something that other players have done and have still done well with. But one thing that keeps coming to mind is that they talked about it. Roman Rottenberg, Kent Hughes, they have a joint plan for Demidov. And Demidov has said himself, hey, the plan for me, play as many games as possible. Get those reps. That's what I need. And the fact that Roman Rottenberg is saying, hey, you're on the opening night roster, I don't know if it's just an opening night thing, maybe just for optics, but to me, I think this indicates that the plan is for Demidov to have a significant role in this SKA team. I cannot wait to see what happens come the regular season. I'm super excited, and if you're also excited, leave some comments down below about how pumped you are for Demidov, because I know you guys we're all over the moon about this news. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you all very much for watching every single day. I've been your host, Josh Goss. I'll catch you in the next one.